Hi everyone, my name is Leanne McGuire and the session will be on mindfulness. So I'll discuss the benefits of mindfulness, where it came from, what exactly is mindfulness. We'll do a few exercises and I'll show you how you can actually incorporate mindfulness into your daily lives. So I first learned about mindfulness in 2008 when I was getting my master's in social work at Carleton University. It's something I immediately became passionate about. So taking that course led me to facilitate mindfulness exercises at the Canadian Mental Health Association. And I also taught mindfulness skills to families and youth at CHEO, so the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, in the inpatient mental health unit there. So I currently work at Indigenous Services Canada, and I do these sessions just because mindfulness is something I'm really passionate about. It's helped me cope with anxiety and depression in the past. And it's also helped me cope with having physical pain associated with having an autoimmune disease called lupus. So mindfulness is meant to empower us and increase our level of awareness so that we can make more conscious, healthier decisions to support our mental and physical health. And it's backed up by a lot of scientific evidence that shows that mindfulness can not only improve our mental health, but also our physical health. There's a ton of clinical evidence showing the benefits of mindfulness. It can increase our level of awareness with regards to our thoughts and feelings. It can help us manage our emotions better. Studies show that it can help us cope with stressful situations and reduce anxiety and depression, and help us cope with chronic pain, which is what I found for myself. Studies show that it can improve our ability to pay attention and tune out distractions, and help us to become more efficient and productive. It can actually boost our immune systems and enhance our sleep and help us fight off illness. Studies show that it improves communication and relationships and helps us to foster a sense of compassion for ourselves and others. There's actual research that shows that it can literally change our brains. Research shows that mindfulness can increase the density of gray matter in our brains. So the gray matter is like the motherboard of the brain. So that's associated with things like regulating emotions, improving memory and learning and empathy. So that's just the tip of the iceberg with regards to the science behind mindfulness. And if you're more interested in that, I'll provide you with more links at the end of the session, as well as some resources that I've collected and I recommend regarding free mindfulness exercises, podcasts, phone apps, other courses that you can take, free meditation sessions that you can join, and books that I recommend. So I'll talk more about those resources at the end of the session. For now, we'll just talk a little bit about where mindfulness came from. Okay, so where did mindfulness come from? Well, mindfulness is actually rooted in Buddhism and Eastern meditative practices, but it's become really popular in the West, especially over the last 10 to 15 years. And one key person that has had a huge influence on bringing mindfulness from the East to the West is a man named Jon Kabat-Zinn. And he developed a program called the MBSR program, which stands for Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. And he developed this in 1979 to help people in hospitals cope with having terminal illnesses and chronic pain. Because thousands of studies have shown the benefits of mindfulness, and in particular this MBSR program, this model has been adapted into many different settings, including schools. Now they're teaching this to young children, and they're seeing positive outcomes and reduced level of stress. They're teaching it in prisons, in hospitals, and also veteran centers to help people with post-traumatic stress disorder. And mindfulness practices have become very prevalent in clinical settings for addiction recovery, eating disorders, stress reduction, pain management, and psychotherapy, and the list goes on. So what exactly is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So that's kind of a loaded definition, right? But we often spend our time dwelling on the past or thinking a lot about the future a lot. Well, mindfulness is all about staying in the present moment with awareness. So instead of me trying to explain what mindfulness is, we'll do a simple exercise in mindful eating. So if you have a raisin, that is ideal. We'll do an exercise in eating a raisin, but you can also use a grape or a nut or even a piece of chocolate. So first take the raisin or whatever piece of food that you have and hold in the palm of your hand or between your finger and thumb. Focusing on it, imagine that you've just dropped in from Mars and you've never seen an object like this before in your life. Take time to really see it. Gaze at the raisin with care and full attention. Let your eyes explore every part of it, examining the highlights where the light shines, the dark hollows, the folds and ridges, and any unique features. Turn the raisin or the piece of food over between your fingers, exploring its texture. Maybe with your eyes closed if that enhances your sense of touch. Holding it beneath your nose, with each inhalation, drink in any smell, aroma, or fragrance that may arise. Noticing as you do this anything interesting that may be happening in your mouth or your stomach. Now slowly bring it up to your lips, noticing how your hand and arm know exactly how and where to position it. Gently place the raisin in your mouth without chewing. Notice how it feels in your mouth. Spend a few moments exploring the sensations of having it in your mouth and exploring it with your tongue. When you're ready, prepare to chew the raisin, noticing how and where it needs to be for chewing. Then very consciously take 1 or 2 bites and notice what happens, experiencing any waves of taste that arise as you continue chewing. Without swallowing yet, notice the bare sensations of taste and texture in the mouth and how these may change over time, moment by moment, as well as any changes in the object itself. When you feel ready to swallow, see if you can first detect the intention to swallow as it comes up, so that even this is experienced consciously before you actually swallow it. Finally, see if you can feel what is left of the raisin moving down into your stomach and sense how the body as a whole is feeling after completing this exercise in mindful eating. So I just wanted to take a minute and ask you what you noticed during this exercise. Did you feel an urge to bite down on or swallow the raisin before you actually did? Did you notice any thoughts or judgments that popped up during this exercise? Like, why am I doing this? How is this different from how you normally eat a raisin or whatever you were eating? Often we shovel food in our mouths without actually paying attention to how it tastes or smells. We often eat in front of the TV or our computers or our phones or when we're talking to someone else. And often people say that when they eat in a mindful way, the smell and the texture and the taste is often richer. So deliberately paying attention in a mindful way, which includes using all of our senses, can reveal things that we may never have noticed before. So with this exercise, I really just wanted to demonstrate what it was like to pay attention in a mindful way. And often doing this can really change the nature of our experience. So how many of you have walked into a room and forgot what you were looking for? I think we've all been there. So this is a good example of mindlessness and our brains operating on autopilot mode. And when we're dealing specifically with stressful situations, we tend to react more automatically. But when we practice mindfulness meditation, it allows us to take a step back and just pause and respond in a more intentional way instead of react automatically. And although mindfulness isn't about dwelling on the past and thinking about the future. That's not to say that we should never think about the past or plan for the future. The key is just to know what we're doing when we're doing that. So we're not in autopilot mode and being reactive. So this is a quote that really spoke to me. It's by a peace activist in Thich Nhat Hanh. He's also a Buddhist monk. And I'll just read it out. Peace can only exist in the present moment. It's ridiculous to say, wait until I finish this, then I'll be free to live in peace. What is this? A diploma? A job? A house? The payment of a debt? If you think that way, peace will never come. There's always another this that will follow the present one. If you're not living in peace at this moment, you will never be able to. If you truly want to be at peace, you must be at peace right now. Otherwise, there's only the hope of peace someday. So we often say that we'll be happy in the future when we get somewhere else or when we achieve something. But when we're always living in the future, like when we look forward to the weekend or a vacation we're planning, or even when we retire, we're missing out on living in the present moment. And you know, there's really no other place we need to be and nothing else we need to do other than what is required of us in the present moment. So have you ever been overwhelmed by a large work project or a task that you have to do? I think that's a common experience with everyone. It's often because we're thinking about all of this stuff that we need to get done, right? But if we take things one step, one task, one moment at a time, then we may find that we're not as stressed out thinking about all the work that needs to be done. And stress can really impact our ability to perform a task in an efficient and an effective way. So I tell people that, you know, investing your time to practice mindfulness meditation is definitely worth it because it does make you more efficient and productive throughout the rest of your day. And it's really important to check in to how we're feeling as well. A journey of 1,000 miles may begin with one step, but it's also important to enjoy the walk, the sunset, and stop and smell the flowers along the way. So this is something that we pretty much all know, right? Happiness is not about the destination, it's about the journey. But how do we actually ensure that we do this? That's where mindfulness meditation comes in. It shows us actually how to stay in the present moment with awareness. So there are certain attitudes or qualities associated with practicing mindfulness meditation. It's important to become aware of our thoughts and our feelings without judging them. So we all have judgments based on what we think is right and wrong and good and bad, and our own ideas and opinions. And often these judgments can really impact our ability to see things as they truly are. So when it comes to practicing mindfulness, it's about recognizing our judgments and becoming aware of them, but not judging our judgments, but just to understand them in relation to what we're experiencing. It's also important to have a beginner's mind, which relates to experiencing things with a gentle curiosity and an openness, as if we were a child, seeing and hearing and smelling things for the very first time. Often when we have expectations about what an experience will be like, we might be missing out on other things that we don't see. It's also important to not strive for a certain outcome when we're practicing mindfulness. So it's not about achieving some state of enlightenment or even to be more relaxed. It's really about accepting whatever thoughts and feelings pop up, no matter if they're pleasant or not pleasant. And we all have a natural tendency to not want to face certain emotions and thoughts. We might distract ourselves away from feeling unwanted emotions by distracting ourselves away, or we cling to positive emotions, or even negative ones if that's what we're most familiar with or comfortable with. So when it comes to practicing mindfulness, it's about really accepting whatever presents itself in the moment. When it comes to dealing with physical pain and anxiety, it's not until I actually sit with how I'm feeling that I realize that I can actually cope with it. And other key concepts in terms with regards to practicing mindfulness is being patient with ourselves. There's going to be days where we're feeling irritable or frustrated. We might be in physical pain or upset about something or angry. So it's important to be patient with ourselves and compassionate with ourselves and really welcome all of our experiences with compassion. And to trust ourselves as well, trust our gut and our intuition and really listen to how we feel. And the last concept on this slide is letting go. And this refers to letting go of thoughts and feelings as they pass by moment. And this can be particularly helpful for people that experience anxiety and depression. So when we're feeling anxious, we often think a lot about the future. Or when we're depressed, we see the world through a certain lens where, one negative thought leads to the next and leads to the next. And we're caught up in this vicious cycle of rumination. Well, practicing mindfulness allows us to stop that vicious cycle by anchoring us back into the present moment. So one way you can actually observe your thoughts is to just imagine them to be clouds passing by in the sky. And just by simply noticing them and becoming aware of them, we can kind of take a step back away from them and not get so wrapped up in them emotionally. And this allows us to gain a broader perspective and the opportunity to really deal with how we're feeling in a more constructive or healthier way. When I first learned about mindfulness, I was going through a lot personally, and I found it really empowering to know that my thoughts and feelings don't define who I am. So when you practice mindfulness meditation, you really become aware of your negative automatic thought patterns, and just becoming aware of them, it gives you an opportunity to kind of challenge the way you're thinking and essentially reprogram your brain. So I found that to be very empowering. So we're going to do another exercise where we're focusing on our breathing moment to moment. So I'll just ask that you get yourself into a relaxed position, maybe put your feet on the floor, sit up straight, but in a comfortable seated position. Allow your body to become still and bring your attention to the fact that you're breathing. Become aware of the movement of your breath as it flows into your body and as it leaves your body, not manipulating the breath in any way or trying to change it, simply being aware of it and the feelings associated with breathing. Observe the breath deep down in your belly, feeling the stomach as it expands gently on the in-breath and as it falls back towards your spine on the out-breath. Being totally here in each moment with each breath. Not trying to do anything, not trying to get anywhere, simply being with your breath. You will find from time to time your mind will wander off into thoughts of the future or the past, memories. When you notice that your attention is no longer here and with your breathing, without judging yourself, gently bring your attention back to your breathing, fully conscious of the duration of each breath from moment to moment. Every time you find your mind wandering off the breath, gently bring it back to the present, back to the moment to moment observing of the flow of your breathing, using your breath to help you tune into a state of relaxed awareness and stillness. Now slowly shrug your shoulders and open your eyes. So, did you find that your mind wandered off your breathing during that exercise? This is a common experience for a lot of people. And I've had actually people tell me that when they first start meditating, their goal is to not think about anything, which is very difficult to do, right? Even for people that meditate on a regular basis for long periods on a daily basis, there's days where they find that their mind fluctuates often. That's been my experience anyway. So when it comes to mindfulness meditation, it's not about clearing our mind of all thought. It's really about noticing when the mind naturally wanders off, and then actually congratulating yourself when that happens, because you become aware of when your mind naturally wanders off, and then not judging yourself, and then just bringing your attention back to whatever you're experiencing in the present moment. In this case, it was focusing on our breathing. So again, if you notice that your mind has wandered, just bring it back to what you're focusing on in the moment. It doesn't mean that you've made an error. It's actually in the heart of the practice. It's not a deviation from it. And each moment that the mind naturally wanders off just gives us an opportunity to become aware of it when it's slipping off into that autopilot mode. So for people that don't have time to actually sit and meditate every day, you can incorporate mindfulness into your daily activities and your daily schedule. It can actually save you time and reduce your stress at the same time. So you can pretty much do anything in a mindful way. This includes taking a shower or driving your car to work or eating, So when it comes to taking a shower in a mindful way, it's about using all of your senses. So it's about smelling the aroma of the soap, or feeling how it feels to massage the shampoo into your scalp. Maybe closing your eyes and listening to the water as it falls from the tap, or watching the drops of water fall from the side of the shower. You might notice thoughts that pop up, thoughts regarding what you need to do during the day, or maybe something's on your mind, or something you're worried about something. So when you notice those thoughts, it's about not judging yourself and just bringing your attention back to what you're experiencing in the moment in the shower. And this can really give us a break from all the chaos that's happening in our minds. You can eat in a mindful way. And we already did an exercise in mindful eating. So this involves not having distractions around you, not eating while you're watching TV or while you're talking on the phone or talking to someone else. It's about eating slowly and consciously and paying attention to the smell and the taste and the texture of your food. And eating in a mindful way can really help us take better care of our body. You might notice that you enjoy eating healthier food, or you might stop eating before you normally would because you notice that you're full sooner, for instance. I've become more aware of my body in general, just from practicing mindfulness. I can detect when I'm hungrier sooner, so I might be doing errands and I notice when I'm hungry, and I'll opt to get something healthy from the grocery store as opposed to waiting until like I'm hangry and my judgment's impaired and I'm going through to get fast food, for instance. I also can detect pain in my body sooner so that I can actually do something about it before it gets to the point where it's really impacting my ability to take care of myself. You can drive in a mindful way. So in the past, I felt very stiff and a lot of tension while I was driving, especially my neck. And I just really wanted to get from point A to point B as fast as I could. And it wasn't until I actually started driving in a mindful way that I noticed that I had less tension and stress in my body. So if you have a tendency to speed, or you're stressed or you feel physical pain while you're driving, I recommend that you try driving in the slow lane, maybe a little bit under the speed limit, and notice how that affects your body. Maybe at red lights, focusing on your breathing for a minute instead of worrying about the consequences of being late, for instance, or other things that you need to get done during the day. It's just another opportunity for you to kind of take time for yourself and check in with how you're feeling. You can use environmental cues, like every time you put your keys in the ignition, it can just remind you to drive in a more mindful way. maybe turn the radio down, for instance. Yeah, so those are just some ways that you can incorporate mindfulness into your daily routine. When I come home from work, every time I turn my doorknob, as I go into my condo, it reminds me to take a deep breath and come into that space in a calm way. You can brush your teeth or unload the dishwasher in a mindful way. So those are just some examples. So here are some other common mindfulness exercises. We've already done an exercise in breathing. The breath can anchor you back into the present moment, pretty much anywhere and any time. This mindful breathing involves paying attention to our breathing without trying to control or change it. I use environmental cues to remind myself to breathe in a mindful way throughout the day. Every time I hit an elevator button, it reminds me to focusing on my breathing. Or you can do this while waiting in line to get your morning coffee, or while you're waiting in line to pay for your groceries, for instance. You can also walk in a mindful way. You can do this while you're walking to work or an appointment, for instance. And this is great for people that have a tendency to rush to meetings or places you need to be. So you can choose to leave a minute earlier and just, it's about moving slowly, like stepping slowly and consciously, breathing with each step, paying attention to the sensations you feel while your feet make contact with the ground. Yeah, you can just do this and notice if you arrive to your destination in a more composed, relaxed manner. You can listen in a mindful way, and this is one of my favorite exercises to do. And this involves listening to sounds moment by moment. And this can also involve listening to others in a mindful way. So it's really about paying attention to what somebody is saying to you. You might notice that, thoughts pop up in your mind regarding ways in which you want to respond to the person, or judgments you have based on what they're saying to you. And again, when you notice these thoughts, it's just about noticing them and then bringing your attention back to whatever that person is saying to you. And when you listen to people in a mindful way, this can really improve communication and understanding and foster more positive relationships with others. You can choose to do some yoga or stretching in a mindful way, and I highly recommend this. I actually instruct gentle mindful yoga sessions. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But moving and stretching while we're being mindful can be particularly helpful for people that find that their mind fluctuates a lot. It can be easier to really focus on our body while it moves and it stretches. And mindfulness is a central part of yoga. When we're doing yoga, it's about staying with our breath, staying in the moment while we're doing each posture. And yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. So you can focus on a single object in a mindful way. Sometimes before bed, I shut off all the artificial lighting in my house and focus on a candle flame. And then I close my eyes and I imagine the flame to be, like I can see it in my mind. And when that image dissipates in my mind, I open my eyes again and repeat that process. And I find it to be very, very relaxing. So you can focus on pretty much anything, like a tree or a leaf or a cloud. And it's amazing the things that you see when you're actually focusing on something in a mindful way. It can be very relaxing. The body scan is another common mindfulness exercise, and that involves paying attention to each part of our body, starting with the bottom of our feet to the top of our head. And I recommend this to anybody who has any issues falling asleep. And you can do this while sitting up during the day or lying down. And it involves really breathing into every part of our body, one part at a time. We might notice pain or discomfort in our bodies, or we might notice judgments that we have based on certain parts of the body. I remember when I first started doing this, there's certain areas of my body that I didn't have a problem concentrating on, but then other areas where I was, I guess, more self-conscious about, I just noticed that it was not as, it wasn't as easy to concentrate on those areas. I became aware of judgments I had about those areas. So this also gives you an opportunity to become more aware of if you have any judgments about your body, and the opportunity to just come up with a more positive inner dialogue about yourself. We discussed mindful sitting and observing your thoughts. So again, it's just about taking a few minutes just to observe your thoughts. You can imagine them to be clouds passing by in the sky, or cars or waves. But the idea is to just allow them to come and go, and notice that they fluctuate moment by moment. It's not about analyzing them or getting caught up in them. It's just really about noticing, your thoughts as they come and go, and not get too attached to them emotionally. So these are the resources that I was talking about earlier on in the session. And I can send you these, or you can actually sign up on my website. It's actually mindfulnessnow.ca. I'll come back to that. So I can send you all of these resources. They include free online guided meditations. I have podcasts from UCLA. There's a great phone app called Headspace. It's great for teens as well. It kind of gives you animated lesson of what mindfulness is, and then you do like a 10-minute exercise, and it's fun to do. There's also other courses and centers that I recommend that include free meditation sessions in the community. And the first book on this list, The Mindful Way Through Depression, is the first book that I actually read, and it includes a CD with guided meditations by Jon Kabat-Zinn. I recommend anything from Jon Kabat-Zinn. Yeah, so there's also links to more about the science behind mindfulness. So yeah, I can send you those links, or you can get them automatically if you just sign up at mindfulnessnow.ca. That's the only information that you'll receive. So for people that are just starting to meditate, I definitely recommend that you listen to guided meditations, and to also be aware that your mind might fluctuate a lot. I like to use this analogy of a fish tank. When we first start to meditate, it can be very overwhelming because we find that our minds fluctuate a lot. So it's kind of like stirring up a fish tank and all the debris is going everywhere. And it's not until we actually sit with our thoughts and our feelings that the water starts to settle and things start to become more clear over time. So the more that I practice mindfulness and I do these sessions, the more I find I'm able to stay in the present moment and pull myself out of that autopilot mode. So I definitely recommend that people, to start with, just especially in the mornings, if you have a few minutes to spare, just to sit and observe your thoughts as they come and go. And really just spend that time, maybe even throughout the day, to check in with yourself. And we spend a lot of our time, caring for our physical health by eating a healthy diet and exercising. But it's also important to take time to condition our minds as well. Because when we're anxious all the time and in that fight or flight mode, or when we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, that can really impact us on a biological level, and it can affect our physical health as well. So if you found this session to be beneficial, I'll actually be doing additional sessions starting June 26th. We will be recording these so you can watch them at a time that's most convenient for you. I'll also be incorporating some gentle mindful yoga. So you can sign up for those. And if you're interested in that, please provide us with feedback in terms of what you would like to see covered in those sessions, and I can incorporate that as well. I can also guide you on your own mindfulness practice as well, because we're all on our own journeys and our own paths. So it's about specifically developing a practice that is in line with your specific needs. And it's about just developing a plan that, and a practice that helps you stay on that right path for you, a path that really supports your mental and physical health as well. So I also have discovered a lot of ways to manage physical pain because I've had lupus for a long time now. So if you do experience any physical pain, please contact me, mindfulnessnow.ca. You can email me directly, and I will send you a list of things that have worked for me as well. And that's it. So I hope you found this session beneficial, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.